Recording started.
Okay, thank you. So the time is 5:08, March 8th, 2021, and I would like to call this meeting of the Sustainability Commission to order. In the interest of the public's health and safety and pursuant of the governor's executive order N 2920, members of the Sustainability Commission and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference. In accordance with the executive order, the public may view this meeting online, but not in conference room C-101 in Building A at City Hall, Chula Vista, California. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, e-comment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link at e-comment at www.chulavistaca.gov/virtual meetings. Your comments must be received before I call the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce the brief pause to allow the commissioners time to read any comments that have been received. If you have difficulty or need assistance with e-comment during the meeting, please contact M. Medrano at chulavistaca.gov and Economic Development Department staff will assist you. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Baugh?
Present.
Chair Mathias? Commissioner Richardson?
Present.
Co-Chair Legaspi?
Here.
Commissioner Guevara-Gluyas?
Here.
Commissioner Corrigan?
Present.
And Commissioner Rodriguez?
Present.
That concludes the roll call.
Thank you. The first order of business is the consent calendar. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit final comments on items in the consent calendar. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh your screens to view or to ensure your comments appear. And this is for the approval of the minutes on February 8th, 2021. So 2021.
Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to pull up the proper slide. I'll be there in a sec. Yasmin, I don't know if you have it handy. It's not coming up on my screen. I'll keep trying though.
I'll try to find it real quick.
Okay, I got it. Thanks, guys.
It's not advancing.
Okay.
Oh, there it is now.
Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read the submitted comments? I didn't see any submitted comments. Is that
That's correct. There are no comments.
Thank you. Okay, do any commissioners wish to pull an item for discussion or any questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the items on the consent calendar?
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you, Richardson. Anyone else want to second that?
I'll second.
Or was that you, Commissioner Corrigan?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
I
thank you.
seconded.
Okay, so then move to approve the consent calendar. So I have a motion by Commissioner Richardson and a second by Commissioner Corrigan. Please conduct the roll vote.
Commissioner Baugh,
Aye.
Chair Matthias.
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Co-Chair Legaspi,
Aye.
Commissioner Guevara-Gluyas,
Aye.
Commissioner Corrigan,
Aye.
and Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the consent calendar passes unanimously. Thank you. Public comments. Public comments is a section on the agenda for members of the public to address the board on items that are not listed in the agenda. I will call now for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final public comments. Commissioners, please remember to refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear.
I'll be with you in a sec. Having a little technical difficulty here. Just hang tight.
No worries. Okay, the commenting period for the public comments is now closed, and I did not see any. Is that correct?
That's correct. There are no comments.
Okay, so let's go on to the next. This is action items. The next item on the agenda is under this is two information items. San Diego Community Power Update. Carolyn Schofield, San Diego Community Power Committee, Community Advisor Committee member. So does staff have a presentation?
Hi, good evening, commissioners. Thank you for having me tonight in person to speak. So I'm excited to share some information from our website and then also from the City Council presentation that happened on February 16th with Bill Carnahan and Cody Hooven from San Diego Community Power. And that is available, the February 16th. If you want to see it, that presentation is available on the City Council. And I also want to thank Colleen tonight for helping me with the website. So the first thing that we're looking at, of course, is the home page, and we're going to look under the Your Choice tab and specifically compare service plans. So the first screen that you see tells us about the energy mix. So we have 50% renewable and 100% renewable. The 50% choice also includes 5% greenhouse gas free, which is actually from large hydro. So large hydro is considered greenhouse gas free, but it's not under renewables because of some problems with environmental problems that come from large hydro. So it's a very small part right now of our mix and not planned to be there the whole time. But just to give you a frame of reference, so what's new? What's new is the power is on. And so some cities have 50% today, renewables. And I think Encinitas, well, Encinitas and also the city of San Diego went with Power 100, so they have 100% renewable. And to give you a comparison of the greenhouse gas emission savings, San Diego Gas and Electric's comp is 31%. That's their regular choice. So that's where we are today. And so the two screens that you see up there, I'll see if, I don't know how well you can see them, but I think I can give you the main information. Yeah, that looks great. So these are the two choices for San Diego Community Power, but they represent what's going to be happening on your bill and what your bill adds up to. So I think they're important. But I also wanted to say that we had a great announcement. So the newest news on our Power On is that we're going to be 2 to 3% below the price of San Diego Gas and Electric. So you're going to get 50% for a little bit less than you would have gotten 31. And then Power 100 is comparable to San Diego Gas and Electric to their price. So that's a really big deal. So on the first line below the prices, you see, by the way, this is just a sample, just to give you a very general idea. So one charge on your bill will be San Diego Gas and Electric electricity delivery. And then you go down one more and you see the second choice is San Diego Community Power electric generation. And so for the Power On this bill, that's about $22. And for the Power 100, it's about 24, a little bit more than 24. So it's somewhere around 3% price difference to power up. And so at the very bottom, you'll see the opt up button, opt up to 100% power. So this is actually the place on the website. So we're at the choice tab and compare service plans. This is the place that you can opt up once you're in San Diego Community Power. And then when you go down to the third line, those are the added fees from San Diego Gas and Electric, and that's where you're seeing that PCIA fee that I've talked about before, the power charge indifference adjustment. And the thing to know about San Diego Community Power is that the oversight is by a board of directors because it's a public company and it's a nonprofit. And so all of the revenues are returned to our communities. For SDG&E, the oversight, it's for profit and the stakeholders have the main say in their company, but its oversight is by the CPUC. So we're not directly, San Diego Community Power is not directly, doesn't have oversight by the CPUC, but we pay fees that are coming from the CPUC. And so that's part of our, what I'll be talking about later, about things that we can do to help ourselves, because that charge is going to be a kind of an ongoing thing. So next we're going to look at the billing and rates tab. And this is just going to, and we'll go under understanding your bill. And this is just a statement. So there's two things on here. One of them is it's a statement to tell people that you're only getting one bill. So it's just going to be one bill, but there'll be a line item for San Diego Community Power for that electric generation that we saw. And then the second thing on this page is at the bottom. It says if you need emergency repair, contact SDG&E. So the thing about this one, and I don't know what's, I've looked under a lot of the tabs, but I know for sure that SDG&E's number is here, and we all probably have this number anyway, but that's the same number. So it's really important to know that SDCP has a contact number, but the emergency number, because the grid operator is SDG&E, is their number. Okay, next, I'm going to make a quick comment under the About tab. So we're just going along and go down to job opportunities. So there are a couple, I believe these are old, yeah, because they say February on them, but here's what's coming. By the end of 2022, San Diego Community Power will be a $4 million business with 25 employees. So we're going to be hiring 2 or 3 employees over the next year. And so this is a good place to keep, you know, watching and also let people know that this is coming. And then finally, we'll just go really quickly to the FAQs. And there's one that I think is interesting. Yeah, it's right there. What changes and what stays the same? So one of the things that we have, and I'm going to, Tina, I'm going to email these to you. We have a fact sheet, and we also have a copy of the March emailer that was sent out for municipal. And some of these questions that are on this portion are in a little table on that fact sheet, and then you all can share it. The fact sheet is on the website, but you can't actually look at it. You actually just can download it. So I didn't go to it today, but if there are any questions, I just want to know now if anybody has any questions, and then I'll go on with the last few things on my list.
I have one question. On your price comparison between the 50 and the 100, is there some reason why you wouldn't also put on there the SDG&E comparison, so they can at least see what the savings would be in either case? Or is that something you just can't do?
I just don't, well, I don't have it. All I have is just the comparison to the one price. But yes, we could put that on there also as the price comparison. But it won't be the biggest thing that we want to be is either on par or below. And so the main news is that's where we're headed. And so let me get that. I'm going to write it down now so that I can get the SDG&E. I have the eco choice, so I can probably get that pretty easily for 100%.
And while Carolyn's taking that note, I wanted to just mention to folks as well that the rollout for San Diego Community Power is taking place in 3 phases. The first one just started last week, and the city has hundreds of municipal accounts, from everything from sprinklers to like the police department to everything in between. And the city has committed that as these transition, we're committing to 100% renewable electricity as well for our municipal accounts.
I wondered. I was supposed to have a meeting where I could ask last week, and then my meeting got canceled. So I was wondering.
Hot off the press.
So just to finish with a few more things. So the March 1st rollout, is if you go to the bottom of the website page to the Facebook link, you can see the videos. So there's the little tiny Facebook link down there. You can see the videos that happened on March 1st. The second thing is that there will be 4 mailers for each rollout. So as Colleen said, they're still coming is phase 2, which is commercial industrial, and then also phase 3. And each time there'll be a different mailer. And the rollout is based on your SDG&E bill type and whether or not you have rooftop solar. So some businesses, for instance, are billed with a residential, they have a residential account, and so they would go with phase 3. But phase 2 is June 1st, and phase 2 is industrial commercial, but it does not include solar or net metering. So all the solar is going to roll out in phase 3. And that's going to, so phase 2 is coming June 1st, and phase 3 is early next year. Also, the feed-in tariff program will be coming later as well, and that's the first of its kind in our region. And that's going to be a commercial program where you can have a solar array, and you can sell that to San Diego Community Power. And then I wanted to mention about 3 phases really quickly. That phase number 1 municipal are 700 accounts, and it accounts for 3% of the total gigawatts. And commercial is 72,000, and it's 59% of our power. So that's actually the biggest group. And then finally, residential is a lot of accounts. It's 695,000 accounts, and it is 38% of our power. So just a couple more things. San Diego Community Power's goal of 100% clean energy by 2035 is also the first in our state to actually be in our list of goals. But I also want to list several other goals because they tie in with what's happening tonight with the Community Equity Index. So San Diego Community Power is committed to demonstrating local economic benefits, local workforce development, and innovative energy programs, and also promoting investment in communities of concern and programs centered on economic, environmental, and social justice and social equity. So what can you do as far as supporting San Diego Community Power? Well, the first thing is everyone's automatically enrolled. So you have a choice. You can stay with 50, you can go to 100, or of course you can opt out and remain with SDG&E. So it's really a big climate action to stay with San Diego Community Power. But also tell people, become more informed, and have a meeting or give us ideas. So one of the things that I'm looking for is places that would be good for me to go speak, or places that you're interested in, people that you know that might want a presentation or to learn more. And then also about the jobs is to pass on that information when the jobs, and I will let you know whenever they repost, I'll send something out. And then legislation and regulation is just, we're always looking for speakers for the California Public Utilities Commission. So I'll keep you posted about that too. And just jobs and local opportunities, because they're going to start talking about local projects soon, and we want to be able to be in that. I mean, we want local projects, and it's not enough just to have, saving money on your bill. We really want to address, we have the hope and the possibility of addressing a lot of needs in Chula Vista by having correctly structured local projects. So any last minute questions, and then I'll let you guys go. Yeah.
This is Commissioner Baugh.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I do not see a hand waving icon on my screen, so
Just wave your hand.
I'm
There we
physically
go.
doing it. All right, so my question, and I don't know if I can formulate it very well, but we've gone through this past month where we saw these horrible things happening in Texas. And I was wondering if there was anything, it seemed to be that the time of day charges were what, or maybe it was the market, they were buying energy on the spot market and it was more expensive. I don't know if I understand it, but I want to make sure we have built in caution so that something like that does not happen here.
So that's, and John, do you know, first of all, I think we have different laws. I know that the things can happen here because our thing that accompanies that is wildfires. And so those are issues and those are legislation and regulation issues that we all have to learn about. But John, do you know any more about protections that we might have here?
But yeah, one thing I do know is that there are long-term contracts that SDG&E was using, and I'm assuming Community Power will do a similar thing. They have long-term contracts to avoid the spot market. I think in Texas, basically everything is spot market. There's no long-term commitments, no long-term contracts, because they want to keep it free and open so that you can maximize whatever the choices are that people want to have. So it is long-term contracts. That's where your stability is. You buy 20 years worth of power. That's kind of what got SDG&E into trouble here. They bought 20 years worth of renewable power and the price went down. So that's part of the issue, that you kind of make a trade-off in stabilizing your prices, or you end up with potentially committing to something which is going to be too costly.
Lori has a question too.
I'm going to follow up on that if I may. So what are the risks that we take if we go 100% renewable when, I don't know what, the sun stops coming out and the wind stops blowing and the major disaster kind of thing?
Well,
It's based,
of course,
it's based on the
yeah.
contracts that we have. So we buy, that's, so we have all those different versions of contracts too.
Yeah, if I could interject a little bit, part of this also requires any community power organization to have storage capacity. Eventually, there's going to have to be something done if you're going to maintain, renewable, particularly solar. There's going to have to be storage go in somewhere. Otherwise, you can't have 100% solar. So that is a piece of the puzzle that's got to be solved by the community power.
Yeah. Hi, this is Corey from conservation section as well. But I just wanted to fill in, the one big difference is the regulatory environment of California and Texas is very different. And I think it's also important to point out that the transmission and distribution of San Diego Community Power will still be done by SDG&E. So they're still going to be, doing all of the safeguards and transmission and distribution network updates and making sure that there is enough kind of power to service the customers. And then one other difference, or more unique aspect of San Diego Community Power is their focus on local power generation within the service territory that reduces the need for utilizing the transmission and distribution network. If we're able to generate more power within San Diego Community Power service territory, then we have to rely on those transmission networks. And for San Diego, the wildfires are one of our biggest concerns for the transmission networks that go, span lots of miles. And so as San Diego Community Power tries to increase more local generation, it kind of helps build resiliency because we're less dependent on those transmission networks. And then the last San Diego Community Power item I'll mention is more so compared to John's, Commissioner Richardson's comment about the bill comparison. That is, San Diego Community Power will be creating a tool to allow individual ratepayers or potential ratepayers to compare what their specific rate would be for San Diego Community Power and would be for SDG&E. It can be it can get really complex and really unique to the user, what rate they're on, when they use energy. But the website will be coming before the phase 2 launch with the commercial businesses. And so all of the businesses will have that opportunity to log on to the website and kind of see specifically for their uses what that rate comparison is. So it is something that will be coming, but just want to provide that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rodriguez?
If I could speak with a different hat on as a lead scientist on the project supported by San Diego Gas and Electric, looking into vulnerabilities of the grid to climate change induced risks. We are happy to support community power in any way possible. And if that down the line means establishing a new contract with whatever development is occurring separate from San Diego Gas and Electric, I have it on goodwill from the director that he would be very interested in pursuing that.
Very exciting.
Excellent.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, John. Thanks, Colleen. Thank you, Corey.
Great presentation. Thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah. Good to see you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, does staff have any comments they'd like to make before we go to public comment and deliberation? Anyone have, committee members have any questions for the staff? Okay, I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit a final comment on the item before Commissioner deliberation. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh your screen to ensure comments appear. Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read the submitted comments? I believe there was one.
Yeah, that's correct. There's one comment in support.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. Do any commissioners have comments or concerns? No? Okay. Thank you, guys. So the next item on the agenda under informative information is item number 3, a presentation from CIO Pro Incorporated, organization offering services that help cities achieve sustainable goals, and by Eli Cortez. And we were approached by Eli through the nonprofit Heartland Corporation to present tonight. And I think this is something that's worthwhile and that all the commissioners would enjoy listening to. Okay. Thank you, Eli.
Thank you very much, everybody. Commissioner, Honorable Chair Matthias, commissioners, staff, and the Chula Vista community. I'm really honored to be able to share a lot of great ideas, thinking out of the box concepts and opportunities that I've been able to see and learn as I've been working in the last few years since I left the state. I was cabinet secretary. I'm retired cabinet secretary from the state of California. I was the CIO, Chief Information Officer for the state of California. And since 2003, I've been working selectively with medium-sized and small cities who have a lot of technology needs. And recently, in the last 7 years, I've been heavily focused in programs like energy efficiency, digital divide, electrical vehicle charging, and quite a bit of other components that impact your power usage as a municipality and your community. So your community, Chula Vista, has been a leader and has some awesome plans, not just approved, but you've been developing them over time. And I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to participate and listen in on your climate change working group, where you guys are working on your climate action plan. And I was very impressed with where you're moving and all the goals that have been laid forth in those plans. Next slide, please. So I looked very closely at what you're focusing on, and you have the seven major categories. And I think the key opportunity that I see is not only in areas that you're focusing on as a priority to your city, but regionally, you're having some major challenges in here listed as item number 1, dealing with plastics. And plastics come in recyclable plastics, but they are also a big challenge that's impacting everyone, which is called the dirty plastic waste. And because China stopped taking the plastic from the USA, and then people try to ship some down to South Africa, it's become a bigger and bigger challenge every day for even local communities like yourself. And again, I'm focusing on not just that line item, but there are other line items that we know we have some best practices we'd love to share on. And we'd like to talk about those as you move forward with your plan. Next slide, please. Again, your main areas that you highlighted in your plans, and you've been working on these plans for a while. So energy usage, water use, green purchasing, a big one is recycling and waste management, pollution prevention, transportation, and green buildings and infrastructure. And the city has done a great job in many of these areas. And then there's still a lot of opportunity in your region to improving. Next slide, please. Your team, if you focus on these are areas that, you know, are key kind of tactical areas to focus on, and analyzing the historical energy use and comparing it to industry recognized benchmarks with other municipalities and also in the private sector. Looking at recycling in a more strategic manner, where you can take current recycling practices, and through your contract with the state, you're authorized to actually have some very robust programs, and the city has to implement pilot programs. And I've heard a recent one that you guys are looking at with recycling glass, for example. So that's very creative, and those are very good programs. But there's quite a few others that I see that are a good opportunity that we could share with you. Reviewing your past and energy reports are mission critical, because if you don't have a baseline, it's difficult to track your success and how much you've achieved, and it's also difficult to navigate back and see, well, did we get a lot of improvements, and what worked and what didn't work. So reviewing the baseline energy reports across the city is very, very critical. Performing walkthrough and validating that these facilities are on board and working, and you know, looking at new technologies as they come out is always a good thing to continue doing. And again, in our case, we'd like to share what we think are good opportunities now, and what we think that your city, your community can initiate specific pilot programs. And you have all the state legislation and regulations on your side to allow you to do that. And so one of the highlights at the bottom there, it says maximize the use of all feasible source reduction, recycling, and composting options in order to reduce the solid waste. Solid waste and what happens in the landfill is a very, very complicated process, and is always has a need for due diligence to keep an eye on it, to restudy it and track it, because at the end of the day, if you're not tracking what's going into your landfill, then that's where you have potential toxic waste and other potential impacts to your community. So it's better to catch them up front than to have problems to deal with after the fact. Next slide, please. Again, your program breaks out into these major components shown at the bottom. You're inclusive, and it's really a holistic plan that I was impressed with. So not only are you looking at energy savings and clean energy and clean water, you're also considering any economic development opportunities and jobs that come out of that, to include what I call jobs of the future, or career development opportunities for the kids. And with Heartland Coalition, we've been doing that in many communities in Southern California, where in vocational training, and we're working with LA County on a new program coming up soon, where we're doing solar panel development. This is the first nonprofit that's going to be creating plants in the U.S. here in California, and they'll be able to create solar panels, and it's going to be an interesting program because we're able to train students in not only installing solar, but manufacturing solar, and that's a new manufacturing opportunity that we're looking at. So we're excited about that program. And basically what we're looking at is sharing with you technologies that are emerging today that can help you deal with the challenges that you're facing in developing the new power solutions. So as you know, there's a lot of opportunities in wind and solar. And now batteries are coming on to support solar, but there's also in this whole area of plastic recycle a great opportunity that we'll be going over today to help you with your climate action plan. Next slide, please. Again, looking at your plans, I thoroughly went over them, and I think this item here, section 452, provides the ability for you as a community to define your own direction and to establish programs that are focusing on reducing the use of toxic materials, promoting your resource reduction of your waste, and basically combining a combination of recycling with economic development opportunities. So we believe that we have some opportunities that you'd be very interested in, not only for the recycle and that process of it, but also to create jobs and local career path opportunities. Next slide, please. All Americans agree on recycling. Doesn't matter, in what part of the country, it's a top priority for people to have their community rid of dirty plastics. Trying to manage that problem is a big challenge for every community across the country. And even again, when you have people that are really like, I call them green advocates that really are involved, even they are critically connecting the recycling to climate change management. And so that's another opportunity that you have before you with your current programs. Next slide, please. What is the problem? It's very simple. It's an ugly problem. The oil industry got into creating plastic with their oil, and it's fossil fuels, fresh fossil fuels, and then we're creating tons and tons and millions of tons of waste. There's an island out there in the Pacific Ocean that pretty much is almost as big as Texas. I mean, that's how much waste is out there. Microplastics is becoming a problem with beach cities and bay areas because a lot of fish are dying because of microplastics, and many of these microplastics are developed because they come from the rivers and then they get into the ocean, and then they create very small pieces of poisonous, toxic waste that the turtles and birds and a lot of sea animals eat. Again, the dirty plastic is a big challenge in landfills. They're not supposed to be taking the dirty plastic and burying it. So you got to track what's really going on with the plastic in your community and really check that whoever's hauling it and whoever's disposing of it is doing a not just a professional job, but the right way to get it done. And so one of the challenges that have occurred in the United States is because of the fact that the Chinese or other countries are not buying the dirty plastic that we generate, and we're generating record numbers because of COVID-19 now. A lot of people are going to meals and they're buying all their meals packaged, a lot of medical equipment, a ton of it has plastic in it, and it's toxic waste. And a lot of this is becoming a bigger challenge for everybody to manage. Next slide, please. The U.S. Continues to grow in usage of fossil-based fuel, and it just keeps growing. So even though there's all these climate change plans and everything, so you got two parameters that are going up. You got the usage of gasoline from fresh fossil fuel, and then you got the plastic that's generated, and only 10% of all those millions of tons that are put out there in our environment are recycled. So that's a big challenge, and that requires each local community to really keep an eye on its own plastic waste and how is it being recycled and how is it being managed and how can we better improve it every day. Next slide, please. We have a video for you. If it runs, it has no voice. I'll go ahead and narrate over it. So basically what we've done is we've looked at the solution, and we have a solution. It's a proprietary solution, and the solution works, and it's in production already.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to work. Sorry about that.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. No problem. I'll go over it. I'll catch up on it. Thank you. So I did send that PowerPoint so you guys could share the PowerPoint with the commission. You guys could run it on your local computers. It's a huge file. It's like 300 megabytes. So that's probably why it's not running. Right now in your community, this is how local it is to you. Assemblywoman is working on AB 881, which would make California's waste management practices more transparent. And again, that's what I meant by keeping an eye on where your plastic is going and making sure that you're protecting the best interests of your community by following, where this plastic goes and really studying, like, is this to manage it, and are there better ways, and what are other ways that you could look at in talking to, local municipalities or the private sector to come up with solutions that every little bit helps in improving the way you manage your waste. So this bill that Assemblywoman Gonzalez is putting out really is going to wake a lot of people up in this whole plastic environment. And here's why. She's saying that, we don't want to export dirty plastic to China or anywhere. And if you do, the only plastic that can be done is got to be managed properly through a proper process. So basically, this bill is going to create kind of a shining light on where all these plastics are processed anyway. So one of the thoughts that I'm having, if she moves this bill forward, it's obviously going to be supported by many in California. But more importantly, I think that it highlights each community's own strategy on how it manages its waste. And that's really, I think, the most important point to take, is that this will create new language, new law that will enforce more compliance and more oversight of your current dirty plastic management, if you want to call it that. Next slide, please. So here's basically this I'm going to share with you today. We have a process which is a proprietary process, and it's been tested, and it basically eliminates the plastic, the dirty plastic. So we leave the recycling to the current processes that are there, and a lot of local nonprofits take advantage of that recycling, and it's a beneficial program for them. But the dirty plastic, nobody wants it. Nobody really wants to deal with it. And right now, it's a big problem for the haulers. It's a big problem for the cities. It's a big problem for the counties. And we're excited about having the solution that we want to demonstrate. And again, if you look at the video, it shows you a demo of it, but you know, we're excited about sharing you that. We've got this process where it's a closed loop system. We shred the dirty plastic, any ugly plastic, it doesn't have to be cleaned or anything. We shred it and we put it into the system. And basically, we create, and through heat of this plastic, it creates the products that are from its original form of how it was created. So it's really a really nice system. I've seen it work various times, and I'm excited about what it does. And I always tell my granddaughter I'm out there working hard to save your world, right? So she loves it, and she gets excited about it. And to me, those are the things that, you know, you feel really good about working on projects like this. Our goal is to, within the United States, have 40 plants within the next 5 years. We're hoping to get within this year at least 5 plants within California. We picked the hardest state to implement because we know that our standards are in California are the toughest, and if we succeed, in which we're already having some very good success, and we succeed, and that becomes a model. It's not just going to be a model for California, because California's got in all this compliance requirements. Next slide, please. This is a plant, and the plant technology is currently operational in not just Mexico, but other plants, smaller plants that are being implemented in the Caribbean islands. And the reason they have a huge tourism challenge and a lot of pollution, and these plants are really helping them manage that problem a lot better. And we're basically creating the first plant. So we have a pilot program that we built, and it was a scaled down model of this plant that you see there in the top left picture here. And the scaled down version processes everything just like the big plant would. And so the beauty is we have that in San Bernardino to demonstrate, and it's sitting immediately next to food recycle waste to energy plant that has really been a successful program, and also there in the same location in San Bernardino. So you'll be able to see by coming out to San Bernardino the 2 streams that we're already a leader in, and it's going to be the food waste to energy, and then now in this case the plastic recycle to energy. Next slide, please. This is pretty much the conversion process. There's no catalyst required. We're not putting chemicals and all that. Imagine we're in a enclosed oven or kiln, and we basically shred the plastic. We put it in and heat it up to 1,000 degrees. And basically the system is closed loop, meaning that it doesn't have exhaust everywhere, and it goes in there, and it's generating different heat levels. It generates different viable products. So basically we have a second bite of the apple of using that dirty plastic and creating energy for you. And again, these plastics are invaluable from taking them and creating a toxic problem. And here we are, full 180 degrees, creating a product that comes out of this plastic. Next slide, please. So what this process does, it will generate, like if you use 13,200 tons per year, that's basically I think like 28 tons a day. And we can vary it. We can go from 7 to 14 to 21 to 28. So it's variable in size and in capability. And in this case, being the 28 tons per day, you're generating 1.4 million gallons a year of gas. And this gas is a very high quality, clean gas. It's rated close to the 102 octane. And basically, if you look at that rating, if you go to use unleaded down the hill and to a narco station, you're at rating 87. We're at 102. And 102 is typically utilized as a high efficiency gasoline for like speedboats and racing cars and other high-end octane use, gas use cars or vehicles. We also generate 690,000 gallons of diesel, and this is clean diesel. So the industry standard diesel is C10 is rated about 40, and it varies between 40 and 45. Ours is, I think, between 50 and 55. So the quality is super high and super good. And On the call, I have the architect of all this is Michael, and he'll answer the technical questions. So I don't want to get into too technical, but he'll have all the technical answers you might come up with. We also generated kerosene, and the kerosene then obviously all these are productive resources that you can use. And in certain cities, we're actually looking to use the diesel to lower the cost of the existing diesel that the communities, municipalities are using. So we're looking at a model where we can do a private sector, public-private partnership. So we would have the private sector working with the city, and then the city not only helping cut down this dirty waste and eliminate it, but also create quality products that they themselves, in the case of diesel, could use on their diesel vehicles for public works and others that are already being utilized. The other thing is, again, we produce the kerosene, and then there's a small 5% or so, 870,000 pounds of, it's a paraffin, it's a wax. So all of these are products that come out of this process, and it's a non-polluting process. So it really is, that's why we call it closed loop, and we'll answer questions about how that works. Next slide, please. This is kind of the model, 3D model of the plant. So that gold plant is, we crunch all the plastic and put it in there, and then you see the 3 tanks. Those are the major components, and we'll create and go into the octane tank, the clean fuel tank. And then the other one would be the diesel, and then the other one would be the kerosene, and the small one would be the wax. And so basically, all of this is going to be using American Petroleum specifications and standards, obviously OSHA standards, and it'll be designed to California standards, which is the strictest in the world. Our construction plans, obviously, this goes inside of a building, so the building's protected. We have our goal is to put it inside safe buildings and make sure the buildings are green themselves. Next slide. The entire processing will be located within the warehouse. Again, we're focusing on plastic waste, and we're having a ton of a new COVID-19 medical plastic waste that it's becoming a challenge too in the community. So the hospitals are really looking for a solution like this, so that they can they have a very detailed process of where we'll have to put a video of you putting in the calm sharps or needles to give everybody shots, and then you put them into the process, and then they get we'll have to have a video of a destruction. In other words, it went in like this and it came out destructed and into the components that we talked about. So we'll be documenting those for the medical industry, and this is also a major benefit. Many of these medical wastes are considered hazardous, and they're actually taking them to other states to dispose of them. So just like the Assembly bill says, we don't want to be shipping them around. We want to take care of them and fix them where we can. So we want to take that plastic and recycle it and make the best of it. The system's small exhaust, because it will have an exhaust, is routed through what's called a South Coast Air Quality Management District approved thermal oxidizer, and I'll let Michael talk about that because that's really his bailiwick. But to be honest with you, that's a very, very effective system. When we're already using it at the food plant there in San Bernardino. So this is not anything new to keep the plant and the quality, air quality clean. It's something that's already an industry standard, and we're using that technology to make sure that we run this system clean. Next slide, please. Heartland Coalition, again, I believe that any action is more valuable with community involvement, and in your agreement, you have the ability to allow your local nonprofits to become part of this solution. And I quoted up there that I saw an advertisement in one of your communities that this month's local volunteer crew brought in 350 pounds of wet trash. And it sounded cool because I think that was the one where they're going to have kayak and go out there and clean up part of that area. And so I think that's awesome. And what we're thinking is we can supercharge it with our solution. So we're talking about 20 tons a day. And that's waste that's already being picked up and sorted and taken to your landfill. Where it ends up, we don't know, but we can take it and process it and make something productive and clean and effective for your community. And then you basically, through having the nonprofits involved, you're giving back to your community also, not just to the city, but to the community partners, which are your nonprofits. Next slide. Labor friendly, we always work with local labor. We're looking at it because we, as in LA County, are creating jobs of the future. So we're getting funding to train the kids that are, we have kids that are early release. We have kids that are basically dropouts. We have kids that are disadvantaged communities that basically are poor, and some of them that come to our classes are even homeless. And so through our program, working with the workforce investment boards and working with the local unions, we've got a 100% job placement with the Heartland Coalition in working these trainings. And we're looking at these jobs that we're talking about today, jobs of the future, I call them. We're looking at those to be long-term self-sustaining jobs that are invaluable, because you're going to hire local, you're going to train them, and this system will be around for decades. And that's really the solution that we're looking at that could apply to your city. Next slide, please. Pretty much Chula Vista has a choice, and in your plans, in your agreement, in your structure, you already defined that the city can work with nonprofits and engage them in recycling programs for the purpose of raising funds, and also to clean up the community and many other things that they add value to. And so we're looking at this as a holistic solution. We're looking at this as empowering your community, and really we're working and looking at other cities around you too. It's going to be, in our mind, the community that has the ability to be swift and move and get involved and commit the resources to get involved. That community, I think, is not just going to only benefit from managing their own dirty plastic waste, but also the community surrounding them. So I know in Imperial Beach and Tijuana have a huge problem with polluting the beach down there, and these projects could extend into your region. And we're excited about working with various communities that are really focusing on dealing with this problem. And the sooner you start, the better. That's basically the bottom line of where you're at. And we're excited about the next steps. Next slide, please. Next steps would be like we're inviting you out to San Bernardino to see both the food waste to energy plant, and that was about a $40+ million investment. And you can see how beautiful and brand new and shiny it's come out, and that's going to be a proud economic development project for the city of San Bernardino and the county of San Bernardino. And in addition there, we have the scaled down version of the dirty plastic recycle technology. We can share that with you, and you can see it from us, put it in the shredded plastic, and that's kind of what the video had, the process. It shows you the process, but we put it in the plastic and it'll heat up the system to close to 1,000 degrees. Basically, not only allows us to process this dirty plastic, but it also in parallel, we can do the medical waste at the same time. And it allows us to get rid of that plastic medical waste too. And then following up, if you want, we'd be glad to present or share the community presentations. We're available 24/7 to you to share the vision, share the concept, share the opportunity. And again, we can consider doing a analysis for you, and then helping you with the technology and setting up you have a glass recycle pilot program. We can do a dirty plastic recycle pilot program. So we're going to be a partner with you. And like I said, we could go in there and buy the property, build a system and operate it, or we could partner with the city and other variations. So we're open to working with your municipality, and you are a leader in the space. So we studied how well you're moving, and we thought we'd add a kind of like an injection to take it to the next level, if you will, especially as it relates to the dirty plastic recycle challenge that we all face. So thank you. And again, I have two gentlemen, Scott, who does our energy kind of review, and he's the brains of he's the architect of the energy solution. And then Michael, who is the actual engineer. I call him the architect of this plastic recycle proprietary technology that he's been working on. And I don't want to, I think I'm older than him, but he'll be shy. But he's been doing this for 4 decades. So he knows his stuff as it relates to the technology. And we're open to any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cortez. Tina just stepped out. She had to go to another meeting, so I guess I'll be taking it from here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think this really sets up well for what we've been trying to do here within our commission. We always want to be at the forefront of new technologies, and having the coalition, the Heartland Coalition, come in and provide us with kind of a third-party review is an excellent thing, especially with some of the technologies that Mr. Cortez is talking about. I have a million questions here, just that I came up here right now, but I'd like to give the other commissioners an opportunity, and Manuel or anyone else within staff an opportunity to ask questions to Eli and his colleagues.
Quick comment, not a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I think that Eli should be commended for this very important work, and I look forward to potential reviews of a formalized proposal, because I think that this work is sufficiently important that it would be advantageous for the city to advance this effort.
Well,
I have one question as well. One of the questions that kind of strikes me, and Eli was kind of addressing it, I think, is what's the energy budget that really is associated with breaking all the plastic down, transporting it to the site, and then generating the fuel that comes out the other end? Do we have a net cost? This is the question I always ask about hydrogen. Does it cost more to produce the end product than we actually get out of it? What does that look like? Has there been an analysis done as to what that budget looks like when it comes to producing the products that you're going to get out of the plastics?
Yeah, so the good news is the return on investment in this solution is 2 years to 3 years. And it's a really quick turn of investment. But to get the details, I think Michael would be the best to answer. So Michael, if you could step in and help me out. He's done the numbers.
Okay.
This is Michael Brown. Do you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So you were specifically asking about the energy return, and about 2% of the energy value of the plastic that goes in is recycled back in to heat the plastic in the initial cooking stage. And so there's no fossil fuels required at all once the project gets started up. It takes about 15 minutes of natural gas, a small amount. It's about 2 million BTUs per hour, or 2 decatherms per hour for about 15 minutes, so half a decatherm, to bring the system up to temperature. At that point, it generates all of the fuels that you saw, the gasoline, diesel, kerosene, and paraffin, and a kind of an off gas. And that off gas then is recycled back, and that's what provides the cooking heat to melt down the plastics. There's also a little bit of electricity used. Mainly the amount of the electricity used depends on the plastic and how we get it. If we get a big bale, we have to break open the bale. We have to grind it up to about 2 inches. So that does take a small amount of electricity. We've calculated it out to about $1,000 a year, about $80 a month. So that would be, let's say at 10 cents a kilowatt, 8,000 kilowatt hours per year. So very, very much a positive return on investment, if you will, in terms of energy cost versus energy output. I did want to mention that UC Santa Barbara, the Bren School of Environmental Management, is doing a study on ways to deal with plastic independent, and it's actually being funded by the agricultural industry, not by us at all. And they're looking at our system as well as some other systems and its impact compared to dumping it in the ocean, piling it up on the land, where most of this plastic is going. That study should be out within a month or so, and they went through a very detailed energy balance as well as an environmental greenhouse gas and other emissions balance. So within about a month, we should have an independent, high-level document to present to you guys. I just don't have it now. I've seen early versions and it all looks very good, but we don't quite have the final document yet.
Michael, you also work closely with Cal Recycle, and we've gotten major grants for the food to energy system that you guys have built. And can you share a little bit about your relationship with Cal Recycle and how closely you're working with them on all these programs?
What's interesting, yeah, I'm happy to, Eli. It's interesting because it is both a solution to the plastics problem and produces clean transportation fuels from what would have been a wasted source. Both the Energy Commission and Cal Recycle are very supportive of this. And so we have been able to secure a number of grants for the food waste. We're just beginning to look at that for the plastics recycle. And there is a request for proposals coming out within the next month. They keep telling me it's next month the RFP will come out. They've been telling me that since November, but hopefully it really will come out within the next month. And we made a presentation to the staff that's working on this grant program. They are the ones who funded another grant program I'm managing right now, a $4 million grant for a project down in the city of Fresno. They were very excited and interested about it. So it would be good for us, I believe, to when we write a proposal, to partner with a group like yours, with the city, and one that has a strong sustainability commission, to show that it's not just a private entity and private venture, but it's done in like a public-private partnership, also with a nonprofit. So we're feeling very good about the chances of getting grants to offset some of this cost at the state level. The green economy proposed by Joe Biden and Kerry's climate change plans have so much money. I mean, I've been doing this, as Eli said, for several decades, and the kind of grant funding and other federal supports that they're talking about and planning outweigh everything, I'd say, since Clinton. He was also pretty generous with that. So bottom line is there's a lot of good state and federal incentives that can help support this kind of project.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that as a state CIO, cabinet secretary, I have friends like Mary Nichols, who, after I left in 2003, she's still there working with Cal Recycle and the Air Resources Board. So we have very good friends at the state level and at the Latino caucus and other legislative levels, where we can move legislation and work with you on legislation that would benefit your program and really enhance the ability for your city to move forward. And the good news is they are looking for leadership, and you're one of the communities that are in the leader position. And we feel real strong about engaging at all levels of government, because it's not just Chula Vista, it's your neighboring cities, Imperial Beach, they really need a lot of help. It's also San Diego County. I mean, we're looking at programs, and I've been blessed to work with LA County, and they called us up. The Biden administration asked the county, hey, did you need some funds? Because we have some funds that can move now, and they need to be energy related. And one of the programs was we got 200 opportunities to help challenge businesses in San Diego County and put solar on them to reduce their energy bills, and restaurants and other types that use a ton of energy are benefiting from just those kind of programs. So the work that I'm doing benefits, again, I only focus on municipalities, and the connections that we have as a friend and as you know, working together with other municipalities, there's resources and funds even through the CARE Acts that are able to be reallocated to programs like yours. Thank you.
I guess the question I would ask is of the staff, given Commissioner Corrigan's kind of suggestion, this is something we ought to look toward getting involved in. Staff, what would it take for us to initiate something along this line? What do you recommend we do?
Good evening, commissioners. This is Dennis Kakunga. So we have communicated to the chair and vice chair, as well as reached out to Eli and his team. The city does have a process where we engage with various vendors who either reach out to us either through cold calling or through a reference, such as in this case. We're always open to engaging and pursuing innovative pilot projects within that process. So what we recommended, or what we asked Eli to do, is submit a formal proposal, and then we will go ahead and conduct our evaluation. There are certain things that we need to determine. First and foremost, does a firm meet all the criteria with which they can engage with the city? There's also certain requirements that we also have to meet with regards to, you know, do they support the city's priorities, and what's the best way to do that? So as Commissioner Corrigan mentioned, he should submit a formal proposal to us. We will work with him and make the determination, and then go from there.
Well, it sounded like to me that this proposal comes at no cost. Maybe I misunderstood that, where basically you're not hiring a vendor that you're going to be paying money out of the general fund for that kind of thing. Actually, you may actually get a reduction in your diesel fuel budget. So I guess from a policy standpoint, I certainly would be interested in seeing this move at least forward from certainly a fairly rapid, advancing this thing fairly quickly. It sounds like it's a good opportunity, and in terms of leadership that we always look for at the City of Chula Vista, I'm excited about this kind of a project. It sounds great to me.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
I have Scott Meinson who can explain to you kind of what we're doing with other cities to give you an idea of how we bring a program like this to you. So Scott, can you quickly share how you go about it, how we go about it?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'll be very brief. I think what's before us is the opportunity for Sizerco Energy Solutions, which is a qualified energy services company. We've gone through the pre-qualification process with the California Department of General Services to be a pre-qualified energy services company. So the proposal that we'll be working on is the ability to do a very high-level preliminary analysis of the city's energy consumption, incorporating this technology as part of that preliminary analysis. And for that service, there's no cost and no obligation. It's just a matter of gathering some data, walking through some facilities, and being able to put together a report showing our findings with a cash flow model depicting what the potential could be. And that's an opportunity for Sizerco Energy Solutions together with Michael and his team to just have the ability to enter into a dialogue about the specifics of what could be brought to the city. At that point, we would bring something back which would allow the city to make a decision about moving forward, how they would be able to move forward. There is a government code in California that allows local governments to engage directly the services of a qualified energy services company. That government code is Government Code 4217. And it allows local governments to use one company for both the design and the build of a project that is self-funding, whereby the funds generated or funds saved pay for the project. Those are details we can get into later.
Yeah, and all this would follow the process that Dennis is talking about.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that, Commissioner Richardson, just to also circle back on the comment you made in terms of this being a no-cost pilot. As mentioned, we were always seeking to take advantage of no cost or low cost pilots, especially if they're in the best interest of the city. However, it is also important to note that just because something is at no cost to the city, there is additional criteria that the city has to follow in accordance with our procurement regulations. Specifically, we have to make the determination that that firm is uniquely qualified, with which we would have to build a justification for sole source. So these are the things that we have to work with CIO Pro in accordance with our process once they submit the formal proposal.
Yeah, I guess my understanding is sole source, having worked in the public sector in LA and other places, that's when you're going to spend money. If this is a pilot project that doesn't require you to spend money, I know you know your processes. I just want to make sure that we as a commission have an opportunity to say, you know, what we feel this is something we ought to aggressively pursue. Now, there obviously are checks and balances and so forth that need to be done, but that maybe on this next commission meeting we could take a formal action on this as a possibility to make sure that that our support and so forth is recognized.
We will be going in that direction, John.
Okay.
Kind of what Dennis had stated to Tina and I when we discussed this last week, and Mr. Cortez already submitted a letter outlining what his what this review will encompass. Of course, it'll be energy, and also we're going to need to get some information on the dirty plastics, which, by the way, doesn't conflict with anything with Republic, because these are products that everybody, it's like currently being landfilled. It doesn't come into conflict with, has no value. So we need to move on that. But my understanding, according to our meeting last week, was that Dennis is going to do his due diligence and look into Mr. Cortez's organization. He's going to come back at our next meeting, and at that point too, this will come back to us as an action item based on the information he provides to us. And we will be able to hopefully get this expedited and make our recommendation to the city council on something like this. So I don't think this thing will be something that will drag on, because we want to move on this. We want to be at the forefront. If we don't, other cities will take this opportunity. I mean, as Mr. Cortez said, Imperial Beach has a big problem with all the plastics coming off the river. National City, it's just big everywhere. So I think we'll be moving quickly. Does that make sense, Dennis?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, you know, I personally, and I also believe the team, there's things, we certainly hear a lot of things here that get us excited. We have a process, and we have to follow that process. And many of the folks also within that process are beyond our control. So even after we make the determination, if we make the determination that we can engage with Mr. Cortez and his team, we do have to have an agreement through legal, which is another process unto itself. So I am a little hesitant to commit to the next meeting because, again, those are things that we cannot control. However, I can commit to the fact that we will work with Mr. Cortez and we will make this a priority. We also have to circle back with the city manager's office, and we have noted that this is something that the commission would like to pursue. So we'll be able to circle back with you and get back to you on the progress.
Can we make this like a pending item issue that way it's just ongoing until we get somewhere on this?
Sure, absolutely. So what we will do is I do have the standing meeting with the chair. I will definitely, I hope to report on the progress to the chair at our next check-in meeting before next month's meeting. And I would also have that included under my staff comments as well. So we'll keep the commission updated on progress and where we are in terms of our correspondence with Mr. Cortez.
Good.
If I may be perfectly clear, I'm a volunteer with Heartland Coalition. I'm volunteering on all this work. I'm not getting paid to do the work that I'm doing. So I'm bringing SCS as the solution that's legally contracted by the state, and it's already pre-bid for you to utilize to do the energy, no cost, the PFA, preliminary feasibility analysis. And at the same time, they'll be working with PFI, Michael, to look at this pilot and see if it qualifies as a pilot similar to your glass recycle pilot you've gone. So I'll be working closely with Dennis and the two. So they'll be the ones that will be leading the charge, if you will. And I'm kind of going to be kind of the mentor and keeping sure that they take care of your community. By the way, the reason why I care so much too, on top of it, is I try to buy a home out there, and I think it's East Vista, and the prices were a little too high. So I'm still waiting, one of these days when I retire, maybe I'll end up in that beautiful community. So I know a lot about your community. I've been out there with not just Heartland, but I've been looking for that to be a retirement opportunity for me for years.
Okay, Tina, I guess you're back, so I'll let you take over.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it.
Chair, we're at
Okay.
the bottom of page 4. We still
Yep.
need to call the 2 minutes.
Okay, so I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow for the public to submit any final comments on this item before commission deliberation. Commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen and ensure your comments are appear. Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed, and last I saw, I did not see any comments, correct? Submitted comments?
That is correct. There are no comments.
Okay, so we move on, and first of all, I want to thank Eli for coming out and presenting tonight, and I look forward to hopefully helping us out in creating more of a sustainable Chula Vista and for our future. So let's see. Thank you, Eli. So next, let's see. So I guess we're going to, staff comments.
No action items, actually.
Oh, how come I skipped? Oh, sorry, guys. My papers are sticking. All right, there we go. There we go, action items. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, under action items. Review full climate equity index report. Staff recommendations to approve and recommend to the city of Chula Vista. And I know Corey's going to be giving this one. All right.
Yes. Thank you very much for allowing me to come back and present what we're calling the full Chula Vista Climate Equity Index. Next slide. If you remember, we did bring what's in this report called the EPIC report, which is the City of Chula Vista Climate Equity Index, really the kind of the findings, the methodology, really focused on the process that we went through to create the Climate Equity Index. And this was presented to the Sustainability Commission in December. And we took some good feedback, incorporated that, and then created a city report that goes into some more details. And so first, one thing I do want to call out before moving on is the in-depth information about the indicators. If there's any of the indicators that the community would like to learn more about, they're included in the appendix for this EPIC report, and there's a little bit of information about each indicator. So it really kind of dives deep into the more of the technical side of the Climate Equity Index. Next slide. The city report, first off, it's important to mention that the EPIC report is an attachment of the city report. The city report is in a lot of ways a kind of a summary of the EPIC report, but it also goes into it, it has more pictures from our community, more graphs. It's much more colorful. You can see that the title front page here. Much more colorful. It brings things that an academic institution doesn't necessarily know about Chula Vista. We have a lot more information about the background of other equity initiatives that we've taken. When I presented in December, I did reference the recommendations, but those are included in the city report. It also has an executive summary. So if someone wants to kind of just skim through and get the overall feel of the report, it's a lot more user friendly. Next slide. As I mentioned, in December, we presented the equity findings, the EPIC report. In March, we sent the full report to all Climate Equity Index stakeholders for feedback. We've also posted it on the city's Climate Action Plan website. So if any community members would like to review it, it's now available online in a draft format. And as I mentioned, the stakeholders have seen it as well. And then today we're presenting it to the Sustainability Commission. Looking forward, we would like to present it, the full report with both pieces, to City Council in April. Also publish this online, and then after that, really start working towards implementing the recommendations. I wasn't planning on necessarily covering anything that was also in the December presentation, but if there's any questions, Phil, please let me know, and I do have some extra slides if there's like I said, if there's any questions. Next slide. So one piece component of the new city report that I think is really important and that University of San Diego didn't necessarily have is a lot about, there's a whole section on the background for Chula Vista. So this is, the call out here is from the report. It just talks about recognizing the growing importance of connecting online and the city's effort to adopt a digital equity and inclusion plan to help address that. I think this is something that was started and completed before COVID, but it just shows as COVID affects our community, the importance of taking these proactive steps to help kind of reduce that divide. There's also previous climate action plan actions that have been taken. They weren't necessarily focused on equity or disadvantaged communities, but a lot of the climate action plan efforts, energy efficiency helps reduce utility bills, all the great services from our recreation and library. And so those also can help with our equity efforts. As I mentioned, the digital equity and inclusion plan, our housing section traditionally has a lot of support for disadvantaged communities, whether that's housing support or other types of grants and financing to help improve homes here in Chula Vista. We're also, the City Council adopted a welcoming city ordinance. And so that's geared more towards new immigrant residents and residents of our community. But I think it's also important to kind of showcase the general welcoming spirit of Chula Vista. And then just called out the like one of the energy focused activities that the library and recreation departments are putting on with the library sustainability kits and labs. The library now has, I believe, 3 of the innovation labs, and for different grade schools. And those are, something that every, I think it's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader in Chula Vista gets to take advantage of. Come through the library, learn about sustainable careers, hopefully get inspired, and hopefully help their path towards achieving some of those careers. And then the sustainability kits, as we might have mentioned before, are basically toolboxes that anyone in Chula Vista can check out and help reduce their energy consumption in their home, with some leave behind tools like weather stripping, low flow shower heads, faucet aerators, and LED light bulbs that really help jumpstart any household's ability to save energy. Next slide. We also, and this is something also, but the call out again is from the report. We did work with a graphic designer to kind of find ways to highlight some of the different elements of the report. This one is the definition of climate equity, which I'll just mention here because I think it's really good to center the work of the Climate Equity Index. But it's addressing historical inequalities suffered by people of color to, 1, allow everyone to fairly share the same benefits and burdens from climate solutions, and 2, attain full and equal access to opportunities, including decision-making, regardless of one's background and identity. So, really the goal of the Climate Equity Index is to help promote climate equity. And as I mentioned, we worked with a graphic designer to create the logos for the different indicators that are on the right there, and then worked with our communications team to bring in some community photos that are shown throughout the presentation today. Next slide. We also were, I think it was, we definitely thanked our environmental or the Climate Equity Index working group, made up of the members that are listed on the screen on the slide right now. But it was really great to be able to add a little bit more, again, graphic thank you to our community members. And at the end, the graphic right there is found. And it's like I said, we could definitely, the stakeholders are, I don't want to say the most important because EPIC was also very important, but the stakeholders were really the core of the Climate Equity Index. And, we really took a lot of feedback and guidance from those stakeholders, and that's where a lot of the success from the Climate Equity Index comes from. So it's always great to thank them again, and we're happy to do that in a little bit showier fashion. Next slide. The core of the Climate Equity Index is a map representing the different census tracts and how the different census tracts score, whether that be in the top 25, bottom 25, or the different quartiles in between. The color scheme was, again, selected by our stakeholders, and they really wanted to showcase and use kind of some of these traditional. Green is maybe a little bit more bottom scoring, with the more red and orangish colors for the high scoring communities that really need some of that attention and the focus. Next slide. Additionally, there's an online version of the map where any user can kind of look at the total scores, but then also look at any of the indicators that make up the index. So it's really interesting to, if you want to kind of dig in and see, where there's access to parks in Chula Vista, but, or where better or worse access to parks or transportation or any of the other indicators in the community can be found on the online map, as well as additional overlays that were data points that didn't necessarily work very well for being included in the index, but they do provide good information. The one shown here is COVID cases, so that because of the nature of COVID cases, it didn't work to be included in the index, but you can kind of see how COVID cases by zip codes align with the Climate Equity Index. And there's a few of the additional overlays as well. And that can be found both from the link, the online map link direct there, as well as a link from our climate action page on the CLEAN website. Next slide. Additionally, there was some race and ethnicity demographic analysis that EPIC assisted us with, and we brought forward into the full report. It's not as there's not as big of difference between the City of San Diego study, but you know, I think it's important to point out that there was a finding that persons of color, non-white and white Hispanic populations make up a higher percentage of the overall populations in these in the high scoring climate equity indexes. So you can kind of see, you know, if you look at the first two, you'll see that overall citywide, you know, we're about 80% person of color. But in the very high scoring index where we found the most historical impacts, that jumps up to about 85, 86. So again, not a big swing, but there definitely is that trend. And so we wanted to call it out. Next slide. And then finally, we included some of these recommendations in the last presentation, and they're essentially the same. We did include some new text and ensuring that city staff are going to be working to find ways to incorporate the climate equity score in the programs and policies that we do. But then we're also going to be increasing outreach and engagement within the high scoring census tracts, seeking funding for the high census tracts, and then updating the climate equity index approximately every 5 years. So, you know, now that we have this map of where the most impacted community members are, we really want to start pushing or trying to identify resources that we can leverage and bring to those communities to help in future updates kind of narrow some of the gap between the two there. Next slide. So again, this is just kind of our timeline going forward. As I mentioned, we have the actions that we'll be taking this month, hopefully taking the Climate Equity Index to City Council next month on the 16th, publishing it online and soliciting more feedback. I know the City of San Diego is currently collecting some feedback on their Climate Equity Index, and they might be looking to make some updates to theirs. One thing that's important to point out about comparing the Climate Equity Index is because of the unique nature of census tracts and the role that census tracts play in the analysis, there's not the ability to directly compare the scores between our Climate Equity Index study and the City of San Diego study. But we did use and copied the state's methodology for looking at the top percentages of scores. And that is probably one of the better ways to compare a difference of studies. But it's also important to point out that if you did want to look at the raw numbers of each census tract in our community, that is included in an attachment to the EPIC findings report. And so if there was any desire to kind of look at just the raw scoring of that each community received, you could compare or kind of you could look at those, analyze those numbers together. But they, because of, again, the unique nature of the census tracts and the process that each index is looking at slightly different indicators, a direct comparison wouldn't necessarily provide very much information. But again, looking at the kind of the top percentages of scoring census tracts is a way to look at the general trends from the Climate Equity Index. And that is all of my presentation for today. But if there's any additional feedback or questions on the full report, feel free to let me know.
Thank you, Corey. Commissioner Richardson, do you have some feedback?
Yeah, I have a question. There were several documents attached. I'm not sure how they kind of related to one another. Are we being asked to approve all of them together? Or just one of them? What exactly is it that we're going to act on with all those documents
so
attached?
so that was something I was trying to kind of convey in some of those early slides, but the climate equity index, if you want to kind of say just that the big report would be both of those documents together. So it starts with the cities, the colorful version of the a little bit shorter version that focuses more on like I said, the background, the findings, what we want to do with it. But then if you look at the last page of that report is actually a cover page for the EPIC report. So both of those together constitute the Climate Equity Index. And that's what we will be presenting to City Council. That's what we're asking for your feedback on today. Although, like I said, you've already provided feedback on the second report. So it's really more of the first city report that we're looking for feedback today on. But both will be presented to City Council, and both are, they're really the two pieces of the same report. One is a little bit more technical, focusing on the kind of the calculation, the methodology, the evaluation, and that's the EPIC report. And then the city report is looking more at the findings, the background, what we want to do with it, in a little bit more kind of user-friendly way. So they're two kind of two reports that together are the Climate Equity Index.
So the last page of the city report refers to an appendix, or actually an attachment. Let me see what it says.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the EPIC report that actually you're referring to there?
Yes. Yeah. So once they're on the website, they're both of them are put together in one PDF. We at this early draft stage, we haven't put them together together yet. But online, there'll be a way to download the full report, but then we'll also allow people, if they only want the city report, they can download that as well. It'll be what they would like to see.
Okay. Yeah, on page 3 of the EPIC report, it talks about a different color scheme for the map. Obviously, you adopted a different color scheme than they originally proposed, a blue color scheme. Does that matter? Does that need to be clarified anyway? I'm not sure it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's always we're happy to kind of we can go back and re-clarify that.
Okay.
I have a comment as well if Commissioner Richardson is finished.
I'm finished, yes.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to thank Corey and commend him for such a detailed methodology, because that's my forte, and of course I love getting lost in those areas of writings. I wanted to also offer some thoughts on how it might be improved, because it's sufficiently problematic such that I cannot support it. Philosophically, the underpinnings of the methodology are conflating descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. So I think it's important to be clear with whether or not you're describing a phenomenon or whether or not you're trying to test for group differences, because those are two very different things. And the report disallows for any sort of in its current fashion, group differences or inferential testing, as well as sort of causal interpretation. Next, I think it's important to consider the indices or the latent constructs themselves. There was sufficient detail, fortunately, to indicate to me or to tell the story of what constructs were within the indices themselves. I was left whether or not these were appropriate in order to comprise the indices as latent variables. One way you might get around that, since it seems that you at least have statistical support in this, is consider factor analysis. That would at least get you closer to your goal, which is very clear. Next, it seems that there's this obsession with Z-scores, in order to compare apples to apples, as the report says specifically. But the thing I wanted to say is that, well, we're not even sure if they're apples because you haven't given sufficient information to the reader in order to even know whether or not we're trying to build an apple or whether it is an orange. So while I did appreciate the attempt at standardization, I did want to caution you at its limits as a result of the derivation of the current construct. Lastly, I wanted to mention, because you had mentioned disproportionate impact, or at least your collective attempt to assess that, which I think is very, very important. I think it's important, once you've correctly constructed these latent constructs, to consider the methodology of Estela Ben-Simon. She gives a very user-friendly, straightforward methodology. She's a professor at USC for testing disproportionate impact for basic demographic variables, namely race and ethnicity, gender and sex, etc. And I think that that's very important because we want to see if perhaps there are some groups of folks who might be experiencing challenges at a greater extent than others. Now, you did provide a graphical representation and tried to make some claims of group differences, but again, that gets back to the first comment. This is a descriptive analysis, not something that's inferential or can afford group differences in its current form. That concludes my comments, but again, I did appreciate the fact that the piece is very data rich, and I look forward to seeing how it develops.
And just to clarify, these were on the equity or the methodology of the kind of the EPIC version of the report, right? Where it really delve into the methodology more.
Yeah, I spent a fair amount of time on the other report, the executive summary, but the majority of my time was focused on the EPIC report. Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that because you jogged my memory. There's a little bit of a disconnect between one report and the other. For instance, in the report that's to be presented to council, I was left uncertain as to whether the z-scores were calculated following the finding the mean and standard deviation of the indices, or if the z-scores themselves were in-group calculations within the indices, which from what I understand after reading the EPIC report, that was actually the case, which I was pleased with.
Yeah, so EPIC was on contract and they led the technical analysis, and I'll be happy to bring some of that feedback back to them, although it is important to note that that was why EPIC's contract ended at the end of last year, which is why we really wanted to get these technical findings to and presented it to this group in December. So, some of our ability would be up to just, EPIC's kind of kindness. In general, they're very good to work with, but depending on the nature of the technical aspect and how much work it would take on their end, we'll have to kind of, make sure that we can balance that. And one other kind of thing I'll mention is the indicators were really selected by the community stakeholders. So the Climate Equity Index stakeholder group was really the main selector of the indicators. And it was their kind of knowledge that we leveraged to select what indicators were most impactful into the community and impact the community. So, that's really where that process came from.
Yes, so in response to what you're saying, I have no issue with the indicators themselves. It's the pieces that comprise them. That's what I'm saying. There's no statistical certainty or affirmation that the pieces that comprise the indicators are actually representatives of those latent constructs. So the indicators as labels themselves in the voices of our community.
Sorry, I kind of broke up there.
Yes. Oh, yes, sorry. Internet troubles. It is
You
my
know.
hope that Epic would be kind because of the fact that they would want to provide a high quality statistical project in order to secure future work. They wouldn't want to deliver something that would be statistically meaningless.
But I guess so. Just to clarify, you said that the pieces of the indicator. What's that? What report element or what are those?
So within the EPIC report, for instance, the data sources are listed within each indicator. Those data sources should be pooled statistically in order to comprise or offer affirmation that it's the actual construct or the indicator itself. Does that make more sense?
You mean, so like for the air quality ozone, are we looking at the correct, and I apologize, I am definitely a layman for a lot of these. We did have Epic at the December meeting for some of these more technical questions, so I'll try to do my best to relay those. But for like for the air quality ozone, your basic, the comment is, we want to make sure that the data source that you're looking at for air quality ozone is the best available data source to track
No.
the air quality ozone?
In other words, to say it simply, that you can pass along to Epic, does the construct statistically hang together in order to represent what we purport to measure? If you say it like that, they'll understand exactly what you're trying to say.
Okay, I only laugh because I do not know what that means, but it's recorded.
Fine,
So
and I don't need to.
We'll definitely refer them to the link, and they can kind of provide some of the more technical analysis.
And I apologize, I don't mean to bog you down. I just want to ensure that the data that you provide is sound.
Oh, yes. Was there any other questions or comments for that, or do we want to move on to the next?
Commissioner Rodriguez has her hand raised.
Yeah, this is just regarding this topic. I think one of the issues is jumping from, just to describe it in lay terms, is jumping from these environmental parameters to social vulnerability is a difficult thing to do, and it's an active area of research. But what I think would be helpful for you to tell Epic is to publish a paper on this, because we're now the second city to have this methodology contracted to support our actions. And if they're planning to take this show on the road and do this for other cities as well, it would be helpful to get into the nitty-gritty details on the methodology. I tried to provide comments on that helped explain things a little bit more, and I saw that you implemented those, and I appreciated that. But it's really their job, right, to make it very clear and have something citable.
Sure, and I can also say that this is a methodology taken from the state's CalEnvirus screen, which looks at this at the statewide level. But this is kind of taking that similar methodology, bringing in local input from community members that are from Chula Vista and represent Chula Vista, and then making it kind of more of a local analysis. So a lot of the methodologies that we're using are similar to the methodologies that the state uses in their analysis as well. But like I said, I don't know if I can sign them up for a paper, but I can definitely pass it along.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Okay, I have more if it's unrelated to that topic. I appreciate this work so much, and I really liked the graphical design of the report. I thought it looked great. Certainly not something I could have done much better with equations, but I did have some thoughts on the wording, some just wording choices and grammatical things, if you would be willing to accept those.
Sure, and depending on the nature, you can give them to me now, or if there's you can kind of jot them down, or we can even send you a, I don't know if we sent, I think we sent you a Word version. If we didn't, we can send you a Word version to make the notes in.
Oh, excellent. I think I have a PDF, but a Word version would be better.
I'll follow up and we'll send out a Word version, and feel free to kind of make any comments or track changes or any of the other changes that you think would be best.
Great. And the other like big picture thing that I'd like to bring up in front of the commission is if anybody else felt like there was a little bit of vagueness. I guess I was expecting to see more specifics about the way that you intend to implement the use of the index.
Yeah, and feel free. I think others can comment on that. I would say that is still one of the areas where we're it's a brand new tool. It's still hasn't been approved by City Council, and so there's definitely a strong desire to say this tool will be used for X, Y, and Z, but I think we just haven't really we haven't had the chance to present it to all the city departments yet and really get their buy-in. But I think that, as I mentioned, that will be definitely once we do have a accepted or a city council approved index, we'll be leveraging this to reach out to our own city departments, as well as one area where we can show where it's used is through San Diego Community Power. They've talked about leveraging local climate equity indexes in their analysis for projects like feed-in tariff or other types of projects. So that's I think that we're still looking on how we can incorporate it into the city's efforts. But I also think it's important to consider that it's a really good tool that allows any organization to kind of say, we would like to work with your disadvantaged communities. Where are those? And then you just direct them to the index and kind of leverage that for other uses as well. But yes, I think that's a really good, thank you for that comment. That's a really good comment. And I'll, it's always helpful for staff to kind of push other staff and say, okay, now what do we really, how can we really leverage this? So I will definitely reach out to other city leaders and during the city council presentation, really push to identify, if not, for sure, some more concrete potential uses of the index. But that's a really good comment. Thank you.
Hey, Commissioner Rodriguez, this is Dennis Kakunga. Thank you so much for that comment. And part of the reason we are presenting this to the commission is to get feedback such as we're getting now. I did have a quick follow-up for you with regards to the need for specifics. Is there anything that you might share that you may have seen or that you think would begin to maybe address, some of those gaps that you've identified with regards to the vagueness or the lack of specifics?
Oh, well, I think some of them were even mentioned earlier in Corey's presentation. He gave some examples of programs that weren't explicitly called out in this document. And those I understood are existing things such as the sustainability kits. And I feel like it doesn't hurt to include that in here as well. And just to provide examples.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comments, so let's see, I'll call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item and before Commissioner deliberation. And commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear. commenting period for this item is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read the submitted comments? And I believe there were 3.
There were 3, all in favor.
Okay, excellent. Okay, on that note, so now we go to the approval or action items. Is there a motion to approve the full climate equity index report to the city council? Okay. I guess there is no motion, so and well, what do we do now?
Maybe I need to ask a question. What about the comments from Commissioners Corrigan and Rodriguez? If we adopt something now, are we basically saying that that's not going to be considered? What is this? What does that imply?
Corey, you're still there?
Yes, yes. Sorry, let me start my video. Yeah, so, like I said, we will definitely pass along the video recording to the consultant. Like I said, if there was significant changes that they need to make, we'd have to look into creating a new contract. And so that could take a little bit longer, but, hopefully if it's a relatively minor, and it really sounds like it's more of just a confirmation that Commissioner Corrigan is looking for. We could definitely, and what I'd probably say is I'll probably have them reach out to him specifically because, like I said, unfortunately, I need to do more statistics and modeling studies. But yeah, we'll definitely pass along the recording of the comments and incorporate them before going to City Council where we can, allowed by the contract.
So I'm wondering if at this point we hold off on approval of this action item and wait until it's reported back to us. What do you think, Corey?
I believe Commissioner Corrigan wanted to speak.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Corrigan.
I just simply wanted to say that I think it's important that we see what the result is before we advance the effort.
Okay.
And apologize. Was Commissioner Corrigan at the December meeting with Epic in the presentation? Okay, and
I can't recall what I.
Okay, and I was just curious. I wanted to make
back.
sure that we didn't skip over anything because, like I said, we did have Epic. We wanted to make sure that we got Epic in front of the commission before their contract expired. And so, like I said, we'll definitely go back to them now, but it is harder since the contract has expired.
Okay. How about just give us the results? Yes, Commissioner Corrigan.
Corey, when did the contract expire?
At the end of the year.
So you brought them for comment in December before their contract expired. It seems, is it just me or does that chronology or timeline seem problematic?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't our choice to end the contract in December. That was decided by San Diego Gas and Electric, who is funding it under the local government partnership. We definitely advocated for why having a few extra months can really provide a lot of benefit. But that being said, the contract ended, and we wanted to make sure that all the commissioners had a chance to ask those technical questions directly to them. And so we made sure to do that in December before the contract expired. And they, like I said, we were able to incorporate and respond to the other technical questions that we received and that I didn't necessarily fully grasp. So thank you for those as well in December. And like I said, we'll reach out to them now. But it is more challenging just because it's, like I said, there was that December presentation of just the Epic report with Epic in attendance was really when we were hoping to dive into some of those more technical questions.
Corey, did we know that December was going to... I apologize, I'm not finished yet. Corey, did we know that the contract was going to end in December at the beginning, or was this something that was discovered following the initiation of the contract?
We did know. I think there was some delays from COVID, as well as just the stakeholders took a little bit longer than we anticipated. But like I said, that was our goal, was to make sure that all the commissioners had a chance to ask those technical questions directly to Epic under contract.
I understand, but I just think that maybe in the future, we shouldn't present work that's under contract just as the contract is ending. And also because of COVID and the inflexibilities that unfortunately we all have dealt with, I'm hoping that Epic will also understand that there need to be additionally flexible.
Sure, and to be fair to Epic, they're pretty great contractors, so I'm hopeful that they will. But yeah.
I got a dumb question. How was Epic chosen?
Epic was chosen because they did the City of San Diego's contract, and they were also a preferred contractor under SDG&E's contracting system, who actually led the solicitation. So it was a part of the SDG&E's local government program, local government partnership contracting phase. But also their unique experience with conducting the City of San Diego analysis.
So SDG&E subsidized or paid for the contract and procured the contract?
SDG&E was the fiscal agent. It was the local government partnership that was controlled by the City of Chula Vista. The one thing we couldn't control was the end date.
Okay, I was just curious because I'm just trying to understand how all these studies we work with all these different organizations, and now we're learning about this procurement that we have to do for another study that we're currently reviewing. So I just want to make sure it's all fair.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Corey, if I may jump in. So as Corey mentioned, we do have a relationship with Epic, and we will circle back with them. And I think we should be able to, if possible, maybe have them circle back with some of these questions, so that we can make sure that we've captured, especially the technical ones that they may need to hear directly. The other thing is, Corey and Commission, is that we don't have a set date in terms of a locked date for City Council. So this is still in draft form. It is not complete as of yet. So we do have an opportunity, should there be a need to make any suggested edits or suggestions. Of course, bearing in mind that Epic has concluded their engagement because of, as mentioned, LGPS sunsetted. So I just wanted to share that. So we will circle back with them, and we feel fairly confident that we should be able to get some flexibility on their end.
I find it interesting.
Okay. So
if the commission wishes to take no action tonight, they could do so.
okay, we will not take an action tonight. Okay. So do I move on now? Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So let's go on to staff comments.
I could go ahead since I'm unmuted. So I wanted to just clarify a point that was made earlier, well, actually a couple of times with one of the speakers on Chula Vista having a pilot program with a glass recycler. The correction there is that there is a small glass recycling company looking for property, and they're looking at Chula Vista as one of the places they like to site. That's the only extent to that relationship we have there, us trying to find them a property here in Chula Vista, hoping that they could woo them to Chula Vista. It's a small recycling company out of Phoenix trying to recycle vehicle glass and non-CRV, non-California recycling value glass to process for actual for items like insulation and other glass derived products. So that's one of the wanted to make sure I clarify that. Do you have a question, Mr. Cortez?
Yes, please look for a property for us too. We are interested in the economic development opportunity with your city. So if you have properties, we're looking for something like 2 acres, light or heavy commercial, and basically 15,000 square foot shell. And we are excited about investing in community that way too. So that's another option we'd love to look at.
Great, duly noted. And then the other part of my report is that you all might have received a email from Republic Services. It was a newsletter email, and I don't know if I'm able to share it. I might not be able to. I have it on my screen though, but it did convey somewhat the message that in Chula Vista, organic waste will be treated in an organic or in an anaerobic digester, because right above one of the flyers that we sent out as part of this newsletter explained that the Republic received a 2020 Organics Recycler of the Year award, and they showed what has been happening in other communities. So in Chula Vista, just to clarify, it's going to be processed into compost, which will be put back into the earth to sequester carbon and help improve the soil and the water retention soil and help agriculture as well. So if that caused some confusion, we'll have to make sure that Republic either puts a disclaimer or something on there that shows, although they did not claim on this newsletter that that's the way Chula Vista is going to manage organic waste. So that's all part of my report. Oh, sorry. And then the last part is just South Bay Earth Day. We call it South Bay Earth Day at home. We're going to prepare a virtual Earth Day event, and it's going to have great speakers, great features. So we'll follow up with more information for the next commission meeting. If not, we could email information out. Thank you.
And I have several announcements. Oh gosh, I'm trying to share something with you from the clerk's office. Let me try one last time here. They are doing a survey. Oh, sorry, wrong one. They're doing a survey. Here it is. To find out, hopefully you can see that with the cute little dog on it. They want to find out what folks want as they revamp city agendas for city council and commission meetings. They want to make them more accessible. They will love input from both commissioners and public, and actually also from staff. So if you would like to provide some input on what new agendas will look like, please maybe take a screenshot of this or use your phone to take a photo of the QR code there on the bottom right, so that you can help share some information of your liking to that. I'm going to stop sharing that because I want to show you something else. In addition to that, I'm trying to do 3 things at one time here. Let me see. I think this is it. I wanted to remind you all that is that going to open? The nominations for the commission's annual awards are due soon. They are due on the 31st at 5 p.m. I think I sent you an email the other day that said we had 5 nominations. We actually have less than that. I was overreaching when I said 5. I think we have 2 or 3. If you recall, we have 7 categories. So we knew this year might be a little bit odd as far as numbers of nominations, but did want to ask you to please consider submitting a nomination before our deadline on the 31st. And also to please share with your networks. Maybe you know someone or you've got folks that maybe have contexts where they might want to nominate someone. That would be really appreciated so that we actually have some nominations to review at our next meeting. As well, I wanted to mention the next climate emergency declaration meeting with our subcommittee will be this Wednesday on the 10th. So we look forward to picking up that conversation again. Wanted to update the commission. Well, I'm just going to speak for myself. I am overjoyed that the benchmarking ordinance that you all reviewed and helped guide last year was approved by City Council at the March 16th meeting. And it's pretty exciting because it is 20,000 square feet above, and there will be potential for buildings to have to make upgrades. So I think it's a really strong part of the work we're doing with our climate action plan. And thank you for your work in helping to guide that policy last year. We look forward to getting that rolling out to our building owners. The first reporting date will be in March of 2022. So no one's reporting to us this year. We might do a small pilot project to just make sure we're kind of ready to go. We're still trying to work out the details, but we are excited to begin the next step in actually implementing that. We do need to reach out to the Energy Commission and make sure we're all squared away with them before we can officially roll it out. But City Council was our recent success a couple weeks ago, last week. I think it was last week. Sorry, I think I gave you the wrong date, but it was last week. I also wanted to mention, just to give you a quick update on the decarbonization next steps. I know that folks had some great input on that recently. And we're doing kind of two things at once. Staff is participating in the San Diego Building Energy Coalition, Electrification Coalition meetings. Corey's going to be joining in. I believe they have a meeting this week on that. So he's going to be kind of plugged into the process with those folks and kind of knowing what they're up to. In addition, staff are preparing as they bring the climate change working group recommendations to City Council in the next month or two. Staff's preparing in advance to do some outreach to some potential stakeholders, letting them know this is on the radar for City Council, and finding out if there's interest in being involved in a stakeholder group once this gets approved. So staff's been reaching out to lots of different groups like the Green Building Council, San Diego Community Power, SDG&E, the Building Energy Coalition, and as well as developers and building groups. So it should be an interesting mix of folks. If this does pass with City Council, that will be part of our stakeholder group. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Dennis.
Well, thank you, Colleen. With regards to the benchmarking, I think that we're all very excited. It's a huge win for the city. So I do want to echo what Colleen said, that we're thankful for the feedback and input and support that we got from the commission. I did want to provide a quick update. First, I wanted to thank Chair Mathias and Vice Chair Legaspi and the entire commission for putting us in touch with Eli Cortez and his crew. We're looking forward to learning more about this pilot. It seems very exciting, so we're looking forward to hearing more, going through the evaluation process and reporting back to you on that progress. I also have some exciting update with regards to the San Diego Green New Deal Alliance. One of the things that we committed to, in addition to providing the letter to City Council, is that we would be engaged in their working groups. I'm pleased to announce that we have been working or have been in constant communication with Malika. And one of the things that we're working on right now is we're trying to coordinate a date when we could get before them and present specifically to their Justice, Equity, and Diversity Inclusion, the JEDI working group. One of the things that we will be talking about is this item that Corey just shared with you, as well as the digital equity and inclusion effort that I coordinated. It was the first digital equity and inclusion effort in San Diego County. So we're very excited about that. We started that effort before COVID, and it happened that when we were at the tail end of this, COVID happened. So all of a sudden people realized just how important addressing the digital divide is. So we're looking forward to presenting that. Chair Mathias, as you mentioned, one of the challenges is that their meetings are actually at the same time as this commission meeting. So we need to kind of work those logistics. Something else that we've also talked about is having them come forward and present to this commission as well, and also get some ideas and some input and feedback from you all on areas where we could work together. So we'll be coordinating that and getting back to you with a time that works. The other thing that I did want to mention as well is I did mention to the chair and the vice chair when we met a couple of weeks ago, is that we're also going to make it a priority to have more constant engagement so we could look for ways where we could be more responsive to this commission, opening up the lines of communication, more engagement rather than less. So we'll be looking forward to having those candid conversations and looking for ways where we can really look for areas where we could be as responsive to this commission as possible. And then finally, I had mentioned that the city of Chula Vista is one of the 25 cities that is part of the steering committee for climate mayors. We're very excited in terms of the type of outreach that the incoming administration has with regards to climate mayors. This is the first administration that is coming in with a fully formed climate mayors. So we're very excited in terms of the opportunity for cities to help drive the national policymaking in terms of climate priorities. So we have our meeting tomorrow where the incoming chair will be talking about the priorities and some next steps. So we'll be reporting out on that as well. And with that, that ends my comments.
Thank you so much. Okay, so then chair's comments. This Thursday, the plastic and zero waste band will be meeting with Surfrider, with Alex from Surfrider to continue our efforts in creating the band to present to you and also to the commission or to the council. So, and then also the, let's see, let me read this exactly. The North County Climate Change Alliance would invite all of us to attend the Seedlings Change. It's a virtual movie night where there's also panelist discussion. And Seeding Change is about triple bottom line businesses that consider the social, environmental, and financial impacts of their companies and address some of today's most challenging issues. This award-winning documentary empowers viewers to take part of the solution by voting with their dollars and supporting the brands and products that align with their values. So I'm going to send this to Pauline. I guess you could send this out, or Yasmin, and send it out to all the commissioners. You have to pre-register and then they will send you a link. You have until Thursday to view the movie, the documentary, and then Thursday night is the actual the discussion, the panelist discussion. So I think it'd be worthwhile for us because it hits home with all that we are doing. And on that, commissioners' comments. Okay, Commissioner Baugh.
Thank you. First, I wanted to say that I have one of the sustainability kits at my house, so I'm trying. And they're very nice. Thank you for that work. And then my other item is something that's not fully formed, but it's actually keeps evolving from what things I hear today, and that is I've really been interested in pursuing products that are environmentally friendly, i.e. in their packaging, such as, not buying the soap that comes in the dispenser and the laundry soap and, shampoo and all those things. So I've been trying to track those things down online and find options. And, I don't really know what I'm going to get. I have to order it to see what it's like, etc. And so ultimately, I would love to have a store here in the South Bay area where you could find a lot of choices and you could look at it. But what I thought about today is perhaps this Earth Day that's coming along could be a time where a lot of information about product lines could be put out online. Like there might be I know you can't endorse things, but there might be like a online store of environmentally beneficial, or whatever would be the right word, products, from items that you can buy where you don't have to have the plastic in the packaging, paper products that are more environmentally correct and made from bamboo or recycled paper, et cetera, just so that people would see as many of these companies that are out there right now. And maybe we can start getting feedback or something like that so we can share the information. So that was just my idea as it has sort of percolated today, is maybe the Earth Day would be a time that we could pull some of that together.
So Commissioner Baugh, on that, thank you so much. That's a very good point. We were working with Gina. So Earth Day is actually going to be an entire week. The city's doing their one day specifically, but we're working with Hilltop and the South Bay community to create an entire week. And one of the things that was brought up at the last meeting is that I proposed that there'd be a 30-day challenge. And actually, if you go to South Bay Sustainable Communities website, we had a 30-day sustainable challenge. I believe it was September. And so all those are listed, and we actually not only showed people the different products that are out there, but we also, I guess you could say, tagged. I don't deal with multimedia stuff, but anyhow, tagged the company, and they had their input too. So we had several different products, several different vendors that hosted many products that you could purchase online. So, and you could look at our website, look at that challenge, and you might be able to find some things that would be very helpful for you, and things that we were doing that are that people don't think about. So, and that's something that we are hoping to have for the kids put together, the high school kids put together a 30-day challenge for all of us to watch and view and take note too, and find some ideas.
So you're saying that might be something that will be included in the Earth Day week?
Well, it'll be starting in April. We're going to start it April 1st. So it's an Earth Day month event, but that whole week is going to have so many different programs going on. And I will definitely make sure that we could bring out or have at least a meeting, or not a meeting, presentation with all the different types of products that are vendors that are out there that support our same mission and views, and bring that to light so that people have options.
Great.
Thank you. Yes, Legaspi, Commission Vice Chair Legaspi.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I know we had our meeting with Councilwoman Cardenas and then with Galvez. And one of the suggestions that came out of that was meeting with Nora Vargas and with Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez. And I don't know if I haven't heard back. I did try to reach out on a couple of times here with Commissioner Vargas. I haven't heard back. So if anybody has any connections to her that might be available. It's part of what Tina and I are doing. It's kind of an ongoing thing, is being connected to people in our community, especially those in office. And so if anybody can help with that, that would be appreciated. I did finally hear back from Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez's office, and they came back with a request form. And originally was just going to meet with Tina and I, but I thought maybe just based on this information here in this Assembly 881 bill on plastics, I'm going to see if it's possible for her representative or herself to possibly speak at one of our meetings on her Assembly Bill 881, which is kind of really sets up well for what Mr. Cortez was talking about, and that is dealing with the plastics, but dealing with it on a local level. It's a big problem here in California, or throughout the country, and these materials go all the way to Indonesia and China and stuff like that, but it's got to become something that's processed and managed and recycled locally. So if that's a topic, if you guys are interested, I'll put the request form and see if we can either have her or her representative speak at our April or our May meeting to discuss that bill. I think it's pretty interesting. Tina and I did meet with Dennis, and we went over a couple of things, and I just wanted to give a little update to the commissioners, because I didn't when he mentioned, we talked about some ongoing business. it wasn't until we spoke to him that I got better understanding of what's going on. And it's basically the status of some of our things that we've been proposing over the years. And one of them was to amend our charter or the municipal code. And Dennis came back to us and said that that did go to the city manager. And that city manager was Gary, Gary Halbert. However, he's no longer working for us. And, you know, that those changes were pretty much dead. There was basically many of those things that we worked on in those meetings back in those special meetings that we had back in it's like June or May and June of 2019, where we worked on the charter, were deemed to be not of value. Basically what we were trying to do at the time was just amend a couple of things we thought that were obsolete. However, so that's pretty, I just wanted to give everybody an update on that. I don't know if you guys may have understood that in some of the reports Dennis has been giving previously, but that's where we're at on that. And as far as adding the additional members, that too was deemed as really not of value, or some of it, at least part of it was. There was a proposal that we possibly sit on another committee like the Planning Commission. And that goes back for a couple of years. That was something that our previous chairman was pushing. And he said there is a possibility he's going to come back and look into that. The possibility is that we may be able to have a representative on our committee that attends their meetings and vice versa. However, we would not be a voting member at their meetings. So just want to give you guys an update just so everyone knows. If those are any areas of concern, or we might have an opportunity now that we have a new city manager to revisit some of these things, but I just want to let everybody know what's going on in that realm.
Chair Matthias, if I may, just provide a quick clarification. Yes, the suggested edits were not supported by the city manager, Gary, as well as within those meetings was both the current city manager as well as the deputy city manager. So that conversation was held, and the current city manager is aware. I would also like to add that with regards to the additional members, the city manager, as I mentioned at the meeting, that is something that the city would support. We actually think that the suggestion that you provided in terms of having a student representative is a great idea. And we would actually like for you all to, maybe we can work together to have that on the agenda at a coming meeting, so that we could figure out a way of working on that. The chair also mentioned that there was some outdated language, which were just, some cleanup language that might be outdated, and we could certainly look at that. So I just wanted to provide that clarification.
So you're going to be giving us a report next month of what is possible that we can go ahead and move forward with in regards to the charter?
Yes, so we could work together on increasing the membership from the current 7 to 9 as desired. And we think it's a great idea to have that as student representative. In fact, one of the things that we would like to recommend, and we can, if it's the desire of the commission, is maybe have one representative from college and another one from high school. But we would leave that up to you. But we think it's a good idea, and the city manager supports that.
Sounds great. Thank you. Yes. Commissioner Richardson.
Yeah, to basically follow up on that, perhaps since we have new members, since we went through that discussion, can that report be brought back to the commission? So what we were trying to do, so at least we can do a reset. Maybe starting from that point, and then the new commissioners getting involved in it, we could actually move this thing forward, kind of picking up where we left off. If there's some opportunity to make some changes, I think that might be very helpful for everybody.
Absolutely, we commit to that.
Okay. So, are there any other comments, commissioner comments? No? Thank you. Okay, so it is 7:49 p.m. and I am adjourning this meeting to April 12th, 2021 of the next regular meeting of the Sustainability Commission in conference room C101 in Building A at City Hall, Chula Vista, California. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.